Well, let's discuss further on the deadline set by INEC for political parties to submit the names of running mates and the candidates, presidential and governorship, across the different parties. I have joining me at this time Walrav Zanjani. He's Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7.
Yeah.
Well, the deadline set by INEC is just 7 days away. How easily do you see the political parties meet the deadline, especially considering the internal wranglings in some quarters?
Thank you very much. Ideally, political parties are supposed to have actually sorted out all this issue beforehand. But because, as we know, Nigerian politicians, they appears not to have been well prepared for leadership position in most instances. And this is why this is becoming an issue. Otherwise, ordinarily, even before the primaries, you will have tipped down some of the potential people that would have been the vice president in the country or in the political party. But because of the uncertainty and lack of proper prediction, it is becoming now an issue and challenge, for the political parties to now choose their own vice president. In the case of PDP, there has also been so much discussion how to ensure that proper reconciliation is done to carry along some, of the possible candidate that might be able to help in terms of winning the ticket. The same thing also goes to the APC. APC is even having it much more difficult because you have a presidential aspirant that is a Muslim, and given the nature of the country and given the agitation that some part of the country are making, they want to make sure that the vice president is from the maybe perhaps different religion. Even though invariably this has nothing to do with good governance, it has nothing to do with responsive governance, but so many Nigerians are actually pushing this just to see this symbolic representation, which in my opinion, and in reality, it has not added value to good governance, transparency and accountability, and addressing poverty and development deficit in the country. But this is what politicians have decided to do, and therefore many Nigerians are helpless, no matter how capacitated or qualities a candidate will have, unless those sentimental appealings are made. Some people will think that you may not make a good BP or you may not make a good president. But we need to change that narratives, and we need to see how we can deconstruct this to ensure that we have people with the integrity, with the capacity, with the track record, people who have the experience that they can actually showcase and capitalize on those experiences to help build a more prosperous nation. So,
Mr. Rafsanjani,
in my opinion,
okay, if I may quickly come in there, you've mentioned that the whole talk about is it ethnicity or religious inclinations have not in any significant way added to good governance in the country. So what are the factors that should actually be considered in the choice of running mates in these political parties?
I think some of the few things that I think most of the, or rather the major political parties that should consider in choosing their VP, one is to see the acceptability of that nominee, is to see the track record, in terms of the fact that that person must not be a wanted person that is having corruption, challenges. Because if you have somebody who is having corruption charges before him or her, it will be a moral burden for that party. Again, you need to also ensure that whoever you are bringing, that person actually has capacity to be able, in case if the president is no more, that vice president can fit it into the shoe of the vice president that you are going to have. So you are having a vice president that is as good as the president himself. because it is not imperial person that you are going to have. You have to have somebody as good as the president, or even more than the quality that even a presidential aspirant or invariably a president should have. So it is not a second-hand position. It is a position that is as good as presidential position. So when looking for the person that will be a running mate for either APC or for PDP, they need to ensure that they have somebody with those leadership quality, somebody who is not having a moral burden, somebody who has no criminal record or corruption as well as human rights abuses record. Once you have somebody with those damaging reputation, it will be difficult for that person to be sellable. It will be difficult for the international community to even respect such kind of person. It will also be difficult to appeal to the growing sentiment that Nigerians are having, which if you have a good person, the so-called sentimental attachment of ethnic religion will not be a major stumbling block. But once Nigerians, they see that the person has a character, has a track record, has no corruption or human rights abuses record, I believe Nigerians will look forward for such kind of
All right, and I know that women inclusion and youth participation are some other factors that some in some quarters are also looking at to determine some of those people who would emerge as running mates. Awar Rafsanjani is Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on TVC News at 7.